Welcome back to the City Current Show. I'm your host, Jeremy Park. We're always honored to bring you inspiring stories of individuals and organizations making a difference, empowering the good, and we love giving you valuable information. That's why we're honored to be joined by Dhane Marques. He's the director with U.S. Tax Works 2.0. How are you doing, Dhane?
Doing fantastic, Jeremy. How are you?
Doing good. So we have a lot of ground to cover, but let's start with a little bit of your background and how you got into this business.
So I was a director of HR in a former life for a regional furniture company. And I ran across the work opportunity tax credit through my HR connections and thought, man, this is fantastic. This is a great program. We should take advantage of this. And unfortunately, I was not able to figure out how to dot the I's and cross the T's. So was introduced to a gentleman here in town who had founded U.S. Tax Works. He was actually an independently wealthy guy, and he was doing it more for fun than anything else. And he helped us save just tens of thousands of dollars over a period of years. He and I became buddies. Great guy. And then in 2013, he needed a new admin person. And my wife, who had been at Memphis Cable, Time Warner, and Comcast for 32 and a half years, was working through a severance since her job moved to Atlanta. And we love Memphis. We're not going anywhere but here. So I connected them, and she took over running the company in February of 13. And coincidentally or providentially, at that time, the company blew up. It hit its tipping point, and it went from what was supposed to be a part-time gig to, oh my gosh, working 80 hours a week and hiring staff. So she trucked along with that, and I was still in corporate jobs for healthcare reasons and different things. And unfortunately, the founder passed away in 2016. And over the next few months, his wife finally decided she did not want to keep the company, and we had the opportunity to buy it. So we've owned the company since February of 2018.
So you know firsthand the power of this, and obviously you've been involved, really through this journey of building and scaling. And so this is your world completely. Let's go ahead and dive in. When you talk about the work opportunity tax credit, go ahead and define what that is.
Okay, so the law's it's a federally legislated law that's administered by each state's workforce development department. So a little bit of bureaucracy involved there. Been around its current form since about 1996. And the government recognized that there are certain, we call them target groups, groups of people who have significant barriers to employment. And those people include households that are getting food assistance, SNAP benefits, or TANF. Former felons, the current PC word is actually justice involved. Veterans in various states of disability or unemployment, chronically unemployed, which has been huge since COVID. It's people who've been unemployed 27 weeks or more. So the government said, look, we need to help these folks go to work. Let's get them off the poverty rolls. So let's incentivize our employers in our country to hire these folks. So if an employer hires someone from one of these groups and are able to dot the I's and cross the T's and hit the time frames, they can enjoy a federal tax credit, a dollar for dollar federal tax debt reduction based on that new hire's first 12 months of payroll.
So where do you like to start? Because obviously you need information from the company to be able to figure out, okay, what's realistic, what opportunities are there. So walk us through the process. When you reach out to an organization, to a company and say, hey, I think we might have something here, how does it begin?
It's really fairly simple for the employers, and that's been the company's goal all along, is to make this process super, super easy and kind of behind the scenes, right? So there's information that has to be gathered from the applicant or new hire at the point of onboarding that asks the questions, do you fall into one of these categories? And it's a typical IRS form. It's a little cryptic. So we've developed an additional form, and our online system incorporates some other questions that help clarify the IRS form, right? So it's just a matter for the employer of deciding they want to take advantage of the program. whether it's intentional that they want to focus on hiring veterans or justice involved folks or those, or they just recognize that they're probably hiring people that are getting SNAP benefits and other benefits, and just saying, okay, we're going to gather this information, and then that information has to be gotten to the state where the new hire works within 28 days, and then the state goes to work to verify the answers to say, oh yeah, they have been unemployed 27 weeks unemployed. Yes, they are receiving SSI benefits or whatever the case is. Then once that new hire is certified, when tax time comes, there's some calculations to do with their gross payroll during that time, and then the forms are prepared and sent to the company's tax preparer to take that credit and save tax dollars.
Is all of this forward thinking on the front end? So in other words, you step in and in that moment it starts to move forward, or does some of this happen retroactively where you can go back and look at the past year and figure out what's available?
You have to go forward because the 28-day deadline, and it's 28 days from the new hire start date, is when that information has to get to the state. And there's a certain order in gathering information and when a formal offer is made and when they're hired and when the start date is, and those dates all have to work appropriately. And that's one of the biggest pitfalls that companies get into if they're trying to do it internally. It's hard to make all that line up if you don't really know what you're doing. We've been doing this 10 years. We know how to do it very well, and we have automated systems that that help us with it. So really, the conversation is, Mr. Employer, are you taking advantage of this or not? If they're not, then it's a no-brainer. You should be. Every employer should, because, and particularly now with chronically unemployed and SNAP recipients, anybody who's hiring any number of people is probably hiring into these groups, whether they're intentional about it or not. So then it's just a matter of who do you use? So a lot of companies, they try to do it internally, which we recommend they don't. A lot of companies will do it through their payroll companies if they're using a third party. Other people use just third parties like us. But one of the differentiators with us is we don't do payroll, we don't do taxes, we don't do anything but process WOTC. So we're laser focused on it and expert in that one thing. And we don't branch out. We don't want to branch out. We want to focus just on this so that we can ensure that our clients are getting the maximum benefit.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you alluded to in your kind of personal story and vantage point going in, there's a lot of money available there when you start looking at this. So obviously it's going to range dramatically, but give us a basic idea, in terms of some of the testimonials and, clients you've worked with, of a range. Give us an illustration, basically.
So our average client saves somewhere in the neighborhood of $18,000 to $25,000 a year in federal taxes. High volume, high turn employers realize a lot more than that. But we also work with small employers. We have employers with 10 or fewer employees that really have a focus on justice involved or vets, and they might save a couple thousand a year, and they're happy with that, and we're happy to help them.
Walk us through, because you mentioned you make it very easy. You've got the technology, you've got kind of the application side. Give us some of that vantage point in terms of the differentiator. As you mentioned, laser focused on this, but give us a little bit on kind of the technology side and the ease that you make it.
It's really fairly simple. We have an online system. We can drop a link into an employer's ATS or applicant tracking system or their payroll system or their human resource information system, so that it just becomes part of the hiring process for the applicant to fill the form out. We have different levels of working in the background depending on the client. We have some clients that are very hands-on. They like to review the information and they help make the hiring decision based on the information. But we have others that they don't want to know anything about it. So they'll give us limited access to their systems So we just go in, periodically and mine their system for new hires, and then go to work and see if they qualify or not. And then when tax time comes, they'll give us limited access to their payroll records, and we'll go in and mine the information and prepare the forms for them. So,
yeah. What has your attention in terms of trends and things? Obviously, legislation sometimes, in terms of updates, but what are some of the things that you're focused on from your business vantage point?
Great question. Our law has to be renewed periodically by Congress, and it's currently in effect through tax year 2025. Interestingly, over the past 4 years, we've had significant increases in the number of certified individuals. SNAP benefit recipients remains the number one category, chronically unemployed the second. One thing that, two pieces of legislation that are working their way very slowly. One is to make the law permanent, which obviously we would love that because, we don't want to have to worry about our law being there, because without our law, we have no business, right? And the other piece is spouses of active military have a really hard time with employment because they're deployed for 6 months or 2 years or whatever it is. So many employers don't want to hire them because they know they're short term. So there's legislation now, and it's from both sides of the aisle, talking about how do we make military spouses part of the WOTC program and reward employers for hiring those good people.
Yeah. How do you all make your money?
So we don't charge any upfront charges. There's no setup fees. There's no software fees. There's nothing on the front end aside from a little bit of time investment for our clients. But when they file their taxes, when they file their federal taxes, and they've actually taken that credit off of their tax bill, realize the benefit, we bill for a percentage of whatever they say. But we want to make it as easy as possible and with as little risk as possible. And that's why we don't want to bill until they actually use the credit.
Yeah, makes it easy. For you as an entrepreneur and a business owner yourself, and you look through, obviously, going through the pandemic and the roller coaster ride there, coming out now on the other side, and, for everything that, as you mentioned, with the legislative updates and all the changes and things that, are on the horizon, even on that side, especially with the military spouses, which I think that's a huge opportunity. What's something that you've learned as an entrepreneur running this business?
Wow. It's something that I've known throughout my career. I've been, director of HR, I've been general manager, different roles and all that, but it's all about relationships, and it's all about trust. When we're talking about, hundreds of thousands of dollars, people need to understand who you are and that you can be trusted and that you're going to do your best for them. And that's the biggest piece, getting clients maybe to change from a different vendor to us, is, again, it's relationships. So I spend my time, Jeremy, I see you all over town and you see me, but it's all about getting out there and building relationships and, showing not just the ability to do the job well, but that we care about what we're doing, and we're going to do the very best possible job we can for our clients.
Yeah, and you heavily involved in the community, as you mentioned. You're always out. Anything good going on around the community, you're there showing your support, plugging in, which is awesome. And I think that, to your point, that says a lot in terms of about your integrity, your trust, and your ability to be there. And I think, for all of us, we're in the trust business, just like you said, and building those relationships is extremely important. I think that in and of itself is great advice for an entrepreneur in terms of, you have to be out there in the community, getting involved, building trust, because at the end of the day, it's about trust. What's another bit of advice that you would encourage for other entrepreneurs?
Just be ready to pivot at every turn. We've all learned that the last 3 years. Pivot has been, the name of the game, right? So be prepared to pivot and be ready to change. Alan Crone, I'm sure you know Alan, he spoke to the Society of Entrepreneurs a few weeks ago, and he said he knows two things: no one likes the way things are and no one wants to change. And I thought that was just profound. And it's so, so true, but we all need to be ready for change.
That is true. We don't want to change, but yeah, we don't like the way things are. We need to change.
That's right.
We'll wrap up on your end with contact information, website. Where do we go? Phone number, even for US Tax Works 2.0.
So we're at ustaxworks2llc.com. You can Google US Tax Works 2.0 and you'll find us. My email address is Dhane B. That's DHANE B. Marques MARQUES @gmail.com. I can be reached at 901-489-8849. Yeah, that's how to get us. And thank you so much for the conversation.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for all you do, not only on the business side, but on the community side as well. So, Dhane, thank you for all you do. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks a lot, Jeremy. Have a great one.